We work 7 days a week, 365, you know? We put that effort in that other people won't. When people want to have a weekend off, we don't. I wouldn't want to be up against me.
So who are your biggest clients, like some famous faces that have really shocked you when they've walked through the door?
The biggest client we ever had, if you was fortunate enough to come in and buy like a Patek off us for like 45,000, that's now sitting at £100,000.
So what's the most expensive watch you've ever sold?
Sometimes I walk in, I'm like, what the hell has happened to the bank account? I wasn't the best when I first started. We wasn't number one. I had no evidence of that, so I strived for it.
We got a fake Rolex and a real one. Could you explain to the audience how you would tell the difference? Hi guys, welcome back to the Strike It Big podcast. Today I want to start with a little bit of a story. When me and Dad were building the Mark Tilbury YouTube channel, it was quite an exciting journey, and the pinnacle of that probably was when we reached the 1 million subscriber mark. And I wanted to celebrate that occasion by buying a Rolex, so I headed straight down to the hottest jewelers in London, Trotters, and I'm excited to announce today we actually have the owner of Trotters, Judd. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
So I think this Rolex was one of the best purchases that I made in my 20s. What would you say to other people that are looking to buy a Rolex about my age?
Firstly, I'd say don't do it for an investment. If you're looking to buy your first Rolex, I'd always say pick the watch that you actually like, because whether the price goes up or down, it's an achievement to buy your first watch, let alone a Rolex. If you can go in, that's quite a high level to go in as your first watch.
And why is there such a shortage of these watches?
Demand's gone crazy. So I'm going to go back 10 years. I would say the number one accessory for a man was a car. Mercedes, BMW, Audi, something nicer maybe. Today's number one accessory today is 100% a watch or trainers, because it's something that you can wear and have with you all the time rather than parked in your garage. And it's something that over the past 2 years has increased in value. So I just think the demand for them's just outweighed like the actual population, and it's worldwide. This is not UK, this is bigger than this. This is like worldwide.
I also saw recently as well that Rolex were actually a British company, not a Swiss company when they started out. And not a lot of people seem to know that.
If you read into it enough, there's a lot of... it goes back so far, there's a few stories.
Yeah.
But yeah, believe it or not, it's British, but now it went back to Switzerland.
Yeah, and apparently that's why they keep their ties with Wimbledon. And that's another thing I heard, because it was like, that is the purity of their brand.
Yeah, it's true. It's like, if you look at like their main sponsorship deals, it's quite interesting to see where Rolex partner with, like whether it's Formula One, tennis, golf. It's quite interesting, but there's a lot of stories out there, and I'm not quite sure the correct answer because, there's a lot of opinions.
During the pandemic, it felt like everyone started getting into investing. Stocks went through the roof. Real estate obviously went through the roof as well. How was it in the watch market?
Oh, it was crazy. Honestly, it was just like...
everyone seemed to have so much money, like the money coming in from the government, the system was just flooded.
Well, I was a bit naive in the beginning because we was just changed showroom, so our priority was getting that supplied and fitted, and that was hard, trying to get contractors in together. So anyway, we hit the ground running. We was like, this is crazy. Is this the new showroom, or have people all of a sudden got too much money to spend? Then obviously, the government was giving out grants. It's not our business to know where this money's coming from. If you're getting a grant and you're decided to spend it on a watch as an investment and pay your loan back and earn, well, congratulations, nice deal. You're smart.
Yeah.
But this was happening so much where business owners dreamed of having this Rolex. They always wanted it, but it was out of reach.
Suddenly they had a cheap 50 grand from the government.
Exactly. So like, just given to you, like 3 clicks on a website and you had 50k in your account. So this was the crazy part though, because watches 2 years ago, the beginning of 2020, was cheap compared to prices now. So if you was fortunate enough to come in and buy like a Patek off us for like 45,000, that's now sitting at £100,000. So you've paid your loan back, and you're also like another 45, 50k up from that one particular piece.
Did you sell any of your personal collection, looking at the prices going up as it were?
I definitely changed some. If I sell anything, I reinvest and I go again. I don't see the point in having like much capital around. My actual industry is being invested in watches. I believe in it, and I won't let anyone else tell me otherwise, whether it goes up or down. Like I said, we'll go back to what we said earlier. Don't buy a watch for investment, buy it if you actually like it. And that's my values. I buy watches that I want to keep for myself, regardless of the value. Some go up, lovely. Some go down, it's not going to ruin my day.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it, because many people buy NFTs just because they think it's going to go up in value, not because they actually like the artwork itself.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's different from the watch, where lots of people hold them and it retains the value.
Yeah, but look, everybody's got their own opinion, but like, for example, would I rather have an NFT worth £20,000 or would I rather have a nice sports model from Rolex? I'd rather have that sports model from Rolex.
It's a no-brainer, isn't it? And then
It
you
is
can
to me.
pass that watch down through your family, and you can have so much history with it.
Yeah, you know, generational wealth can be carried on by this watch. This NFT could turn into millions. I could be completely wrong, but
I think the hype has kind of died a little bit. It's not like you're going to pass an NFT on to your son in the future. There we go.
Well, honestly, I'd rather a bit of real natural art, a bit of Damien Hirst or something. You know, I would literally rather have something on my house wall, walk in and actually get the pleasure of having it, rather than some little logo on my phone.
So with these timepieces being so expensive, how did you start out in this kind of business? Because even to just acquire the stock must be so expensive, and you need a lot of capital to get started.
It's certainly true. For example, going back, so 2011 is when I first started buying and selling watches. Previously, it was just jewelry. So watches was a fraction of the price they are now. For example, a Rolex Submariner in stainless steel, you could walk to Watches of Switzerland and pay £3,800 brand new.
Wow.
And it was in the window.
Yeah.
You didn't need to wait a year or two. It was in the window. And in some cases, if you bought two or three pieces, you'd get discount, where I came in. So often or not, I would go and make an offer on two or three pieces. You may get £500 off a watch, which doesn't sound a hell of a lot now, but that's more than 10% profit on a £3,500 watch. So the margin's fairly good. But how I really originally started was the lower end, the Cartier pieces, Sport 21s, £1,000, £1,200, because it wasn't going to come in as a young, naive guy. I was like 16 at the time, coming into this big watch industry. You're not going to come in and buy like £30,000-40,000 watches. This is not going to happen. But they didn't really exist back then, believe it or not. The biggest watch you sort of could have purchased back then was maybe an Audemars Piguet Montoya, and they was around like £35,000-40,000, and only serious people had them watches, like very serious.
So what happened to the jewellery side of the business then? Did that sort of just fade away as you came in and the watches took over, or...?
In honesty, I don't have a general interest in jewellery.
Yeah,
you know,
and that's a key thing, isn't it? To be interested in the product you're selling.
It's true. Like, imagine waking up every day, like I could look at a solitaire ring or a gold chain and it just has no connection to me whatsoever. I don't wear it myself. It's not stuff that I've never really been interested in. I can get why people like it. You know, I love working on jewellery, like an order for somebody, because if somebody comes in with an idea, let me make that happen for you. You know, I can do that. But watches, for me, I've got an obsession about. I love watches. Some people like cars, some people like sport. Watches is my thing.
What's the most expensive custom piece you've made for a client?
What, jewelry-wise?
Just, what the biggest thing you've made at Trotters?
I'd say, I'm trying to think now, if you're talking about like, in terms of like an actual jewelry item, I would say is around the £80,000 mark,
Wow.
which would be like a chain or a single engagement ring. Or if you're talking like a watch, individual watch, if I'd done anything to it, like a custom made piece, we had like a chandelier once, which is like it was an Audemars Piguet. We completely stripped it back. It was unbelievable, the work behind it. So we had to set something around 80 carats of baguette diamonds set throughout, invisible set bezel. I'll have to show you a picture one time. It's a crazy piece. And that sold for just over 100k.
Wow.
So
how much would it go before the customization, and then how much afterwards?
Back then, £20,000 watch.
Wow,
so you're investing a large chunk into it to get 100,000 out of it, for example. And it wasn't easy. The first offer we had, we refused, and that was our best offer. Should have took it.
And as I understand it, sometimes you can customise these watches and they will literally lose value because you've customised them. So why is that? I think our viewers would like to see.
It's interesting because a lot of people in the comments will probably say it's a terrible thing to do, but that's our risk element. You know, I'm taking that risk. Nobody told me to do it. We chose to do it because we've got a market for it. And I think no matter what business you're in, if you've got a market for it, then you go in that direction that you want to go in. We get requests day in, day out for diamond set watches. So if I don't have them in stock, I'm the fool for turning down business. And if we guarantee a buyback with a certain customer within 12 to 18 months, that's good business for us both.
Are they looking to like buy it as an investment or more as a flex piece when they buy the diamond set ones?
Well, in all honesty, if you're going to buy a custom-made piece and we give you a buyback, it's going to be less than the price you paid. But it's agreed on the day before you purchase the watch. So it's a gentleman's handshake and it's in black and white on the receipt. So, you know, when they come back in 18 months, there's no argument. It's
almost like they're renting it for that period.
Yeah,
and giving it back to you.
Unfortunately, we can't lease or finance a watch like that, sorry. But in that sense, yes, you know how much you're going to lose. It might work out £300 a month over a year. You know, some people would rather have a car, some people would rather have a watch. So, yeah, it's pretty fair.
Do you think social media is one of the main key factors to how the prices of these watches have increased so much?
Yes, 100%. So social media has dominated. Everybody wants to be cool. Everybody wants to be hot, you know. So when you scroll through Instagram, it's brand heaven, you know. Everything's branded these days. And I watch people like Tesla, for example, like Elon Musk. He's an absolute expert, and Apple. They're unbelievable how they market products. So if you watch people how they're doing it on the big scale, how can we replicate that on a smaller scale? You know, we're small fish in a big pond.
But first, we'd like to say thank you to our sponsor, Public.com. Dad, 100 years ago, when you started investing, what steps did you take to become a better investor?
Well, I used to take tips from the local meat market.
If only you had Public.com back then. Public is an investing platform that not only gives you the information and tools you need to make smarter investments, they also have a built-in optional social feature filled with analysts and notable investors to share their thoughts and help you be a better investor.
Well, that sounds good, but I'm more into index funds than individual stocks.
Oh, I thought you might say that. Well, Public offer ETFs, which is like a bundle of different stocks put together that can help you diversify your investments during economic downturns. And coming soon, Public will have art, collectibles, and more.
Wow, surely it doesn't get any better than that.
Well, you're in for some luck, old man.
Steady, son.
The best part is they've got $0 fees on standard stock trades, and you can get a free stock worth between $3,000 and $1,000 when you invest with the link in the description below.
Wow, that's brilliant.
Back to the podcast. So who are your biggest clients, like some famous faces that have really shocked you when they've walked through the door?
Well, the biggest client we ever had shocked me so much, and I wasn't in the office.
Oh, really?
Dear.
Missed that day.
Took a day off, and Mr. Bernie Ecclestone walked through the door.
Really?
Yep, in Bethnal Green.
Did he come through the cat flap?
Well, he's not the tallest guy in the world, but he's to be honest, he's an absolute gentleman.
He's a legend, isn't he?
He is a legend, you know, and I didn't believe it. So I actually had to go back over the CCTV because I thought, you're winding me up. I've had a day off, you know, there's no chance like this has happened, but you just never know. Like, it was more interesting, I'd say, when we was in Bethnal Green because they'd push the doorbell and they'd walk in. You know, we'd open the security doors and they'd walk through, whereas now, where we're in a luxury showroom, it's more...
Well, it's the penthouse, isn't it?
The penthouse showroom, you know.
View of the Shard as well.
No, we went quite nice with this one. You know, we chose to take that next level up. But we kind of know who's coming in now.
Yeah.
It's quite unusual for somebody to go downstairs to the concierge and ask to come up without messaging us prior. So yeah, times have changed a little bit, but we've had some famous faces.
Have you had any reality stars at all?
Yeah, we've had recently. We had from Love Island, Luca Bish.
Oh yeah,
it's a pleasure, you know. Whether you're famous or you're not, we're there to help you. You know, we don't really get too starstruck. I probably would if someone like David Beckham walked in. You know, I guess he's pretty cool. But I mean, besides that, come in, you're welcome. You know.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realise that, do they? When you're in the game of providing the best service you can, it doesn't matter. It's another customer, isn't it, that you can provide that experience for.
Yeah, it's true. And I think you got to make them feel as comfortable as you possibly can. And they're probably less likely to want to be filmed like us when they're purchasing something because they're being filmed all day long, every day. But they're definitely a natural on camera.
I think you always remember where you've got good service. That's the thing I always say. So you'll always return to that. You get a bad service or a bit of a snobby sort of like, you're not good enough for us, you ain't going back, are you? And I think you provide a good service for return clientele.
No, I appreciate that. Like, for example, you'll come in the office one day, I'm wearing a shirt. You'll come in another office one day, I'm wearing a hoodie. You know, we're very approachable to all customers. Because we dress smart or because we dress casual doesn't mean anything, and that's how we treat our customers. If somebody comes up in shorts and a t-shirt, they're still going to get the same respect as somebody who comes in a three-piece suit. And I think that's the good thing about our team. We're very diverse and we'll deal with everyone and everyone.
So what's the most expensive watch you've ever sold?
I had a Patek 5719 Nautilus, which was a factory set piece. He had baguettes set throughout and a baguette bezel. I actually had the pleasure of wearing this watch in New York. Crazy. I don't know why. Alex,
Were you worried about wearing a watch of that value?
Yeah,
You're
but
just walking around.
you got to be honest. This is probably going back 8 years ago. Different
So you're
time.
okay.
Different time. You know. And in America, I'll be honest, people encourage you to do well. It's a different mindset to the UK. I think
that might have changed a little bit. You know, back then I'd have 100% agreed with you. And the first time I went to the States, I was stunned by the pat on the back for doing really, really well. But there seems to be, I think, a bit of a backlash against it. I think it's changing in the States.
Possibly.
More to how the UK is sort of like, well, why should he have it sort of thing. So
yeah. So well, that's why I wore it back then anyway. But I managed to sell that piece for just shy of £400,000.
Wow.
I got to be honest, for the amount of time that I sat on that watch and the amount of deals that got offered my way, nobody came to me with a £400,000 table on the offer. It was a part exchange deal every time, so it had to be the right deal. So I think it was around 2 years later, I managed to sell it and get out of it and do a part exchange. But that wasn't the most we've ever earned on a particular watch, no. But that was the largest sale we've probably ever done.
So going back to the mindset in like London, if you're walking around with a watch, I've seen videos of people even smashing into cars just to try and steal a watch and you know, chop your arm off, just maybe for like a Pepsi or something like that.
Yeah.
What do you think about what's going on at the moment? Because it's just crazy.
I think it's terrible. I think it's we're in a real bad place at the moment. And I'm buying and selling watches. You know, some people are selling watches to me because they're worried about having a watch. And I'm getting other people come in because they want to have a watch and they want to treat themselves. So it's entirely up to you. You know, if you want to have a watch and it's insured, wear it, get it insured. If something really bad happens, give it to them. What does it matter? You know, you're going to get another one. It's not worth your life. But on a daily occasion now, we've had a lot of chats, a lot of security measures. Not even wearing a watch. And that's the shame about it. You know, I love watches and I'm not wearing one because I just
worried
think,
about coming here.
Yeah.
We might
no,
steal
not
it.
at all. It's like, look, I know you guys have invited me here today and I feel very comfortable, but it's just the fact of like, we're on YouTube at the moment, you know, we're broadcasting our brand.
Yeah.
I don't need to be putting myself as a target. So people, if you want the watches, come to the penthouse. We've got plenty of security there.
So what was E-Man's watch roll worth that he said he was that he had in his Land Rover outside, Range Rover?
I think he travels around with about $1 million, but he has over 3 million in watches.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Travels with $1 million.
See, now, fair play, but if you lose that $1 million, don't cry. You know, that's an awful lot of money to make back in free watches that could be so easily taken. You could forget about them and leave them in your back seat.
Well, he was saying that he could actually leave them on the beach in Dubai, go for a swim, and no one would take them.
No.
No.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
Have you been to Dubai?
I've been to Dubai a number of times. It used to be safe, but now I hear horror stories. I've not been to Dubai for probably 3 or 4 years now, and I tell you, so you're lucky to see me out in Dubai with a watch. After the stories, we're first hand. So who do the people call when like these terrible things happen? They call us to like report their serial numbers and whatnot.
And all the rest of it.
You know, that's what we say. Number one thing is it insured. If it's insured and you're okay and nobody got hurt, move on. You know.
So what is the hardest part in your business? I mean, obviously you're buying and you're selling. Is it getting enough stock? Is it selling enough stock? What is the difficult part?
That's a tough question because on a good week we'll sell more than we buy, and on a bad week we're buying more than we sell, and it's all about balance. You know, sometimes I walk in, I'm like, what the hell has happened to the bank account? But then we've got loads of stock, and then it's just we're constantly turning over stock, whether we're buying or selling. If a watch is cheap, we just have to buy it. There's no doubt about it.
Does it ever get to a situation where you've got no cash left?
Yeah. I'm here. My colleague Alex will.
He's spending too much, is he?
We do. We have serious chat. It's like, right, get a coffee. We have a serious chat because now we need to sell. But the beauty of it is that anything we buy, we've got intentions of selling with a profit.
Yeah.
So in my eyes, I look at it as good stock. There's profit in front of me. It's just at the right time.
It's like a comfort blanket, isn't it, having stock? I have that in my business.
It's
you know?
true.
Yeah.
You know, and without stock, if they call us and we haven't got something in stock, that actually irritates me because I think
Well, it's a lost sale.
It's a lost sale unless we can prove to that customer I can get you on quick enough. And when you outsource something from the trade industry, you're paying over the odds in the beginning. So, yeah, having stock is definitely number one factor of keeping it.
Do you sell on commission as well, or do you only buy and sell?
Only buy and sell.
Okay. Is that not an avenue that's worth investigating?
Yeah and no, because I feel we've had it before where somebody leaves us a watch on sale and return. we agree a price, and then they've seen one pop up on a website called Chrono24, or their cousin or their friend has seen this price. We don't like stories. We just like buy or sell.
Yeah.
So on the day, if I've overpaid you on the day, I was happy with that price, and vice versa. If you was happy on the day to sell it and it's gone up or it's gone down, you was happy with that price. You know, that's why we signed that legal agreement. You know, I think it's just a lot easier. Whereas sometimes we've sold the watch, called the customer up, can we have your bank information? We're about to send you the payment. Oh no, I wanted more than that now. But it's too late. The watch is gone.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just a debate you don't really need with a customer, and the dramas of saying, well, you need to get my watch back. It's just, it's not needed. It's not necessary.
It's not happening.
No.
So if you were to rank watch brands, like the top watch brands, what would be at the top?
Patek.
Okay, and what would be at the bottom?
Sorry, I missed that. What was the top watch?
Patek Philippe.
Okay.
1,000,000%. It's the best.
Okay.
In my opinion. It's
How
not
about
even my
Rolex?
opinion.
Is Rolex at the top?
I think Rolex have got, I would say design-wise, I'd say Rolex are probably the top. But in terms of like watchmaking, as overall package, I'd say it's Patek. Rolex and Audemars Piguet are head-to-head. Head-to-head. But then you've got other beautiful brands out there. You've got IWC, you've got Vacheron, Omega. There's so many brands out there that other people... Oh, Richard Mille. Richard Mille are a really cool brand. But a lot of people dislike them.
How about Casio?
Why not Casio? Why not? But it's just not something we've ever bought and sold, you know? So it's not in my field at the moment. Who knows? They might start making gold Casios or limited edition ones.
I just see them as like a calculator brand, mainly.
I actually like them calculator watches. They're quite
They
cool.
were cool.
Yeah, they are
I had
cool.
one of them when I was a kid.
Yeah, they are quite cool. Listen, my missus bought me an Apple Watch a number of years ago, and I felt so bad wearing it because
really?
it's against like everything I believe in a watch. But when I put it on, it was brilliant.
It's useful, isn't it?
It is really good, and I'm probably going to go back to it with the way things are going at the minute.
The trouble is, though, if you're going out for a night out and you've had a nice shower and you've got the nice clothes on and you slide an Apple Watch on, it's not quite the same feeling as sliding on a nice Rollie, is it?
It's true, but it's even the actual look as well. You've got to admit, it just doesn't look classy. It's just, it makes, like if you put like a shirt on or a suit, it's tacky. It is. I don't care what you say.
It's good
just,
for tracking like fitness and sleep and all of those other metrics, but when it comes to looking nice, definitely
it's
not
true.
the best.
It definitely goes for like a nice Swiss watch or something. It's just classic.
So what's the most important thing to look for in a watch? So you've got the brand, maybe Rolex or Patek. What watches within that brand and what are the key parts of the watch you should be looking at when you're making an investment?
I think if you're looking at an investment point of view, I think you need to look at the market rather than what you actually like. You know, you've got to take your personal opinion away from the watch. So there's certain watches out there that sell for a lot of, like for example, a Rolex Daytona, a Stromec Daytona. It's the holy grail to a lot of people. It's not in particularly a great looking watch in my opinion. I think the previous generation with the steel bezel, much classier looking watch. I think they've made it look a bit tacky and cheap now. I know a lot of people in the comments are gonna
It's going to be a war down
have
there.
a
It's
pop.
a personal thing.
Exactly, it's a personal thing.
Yeah.
But the watch is sitting at 30k plus now. So if you was fortunate enough to get one at retail price, which is around £12,000, you've nearly trebled your money. Even on the grey market, you would have paid low 20s maybe 2 years ago. So still like a 10k profit, which again, if you stuck that in the safe and done nothing, it's another salary, you know, each year. But you just got to completely take your mindset off of wearing this watch and do it purely for investment. But when I look at like Patek, for example, it's the complete opposite. They're all classy pieces. Whether you go for a rubber strap one or a metal strap piece, they're not pieces that a lot of people can obtain because they're more expensive in the first place. So when there's less pieces on the market, the price can fluctuate up and down a lot quicker. So if there's only 3 on the market and a wealthy guy wants this watch, well, how much money is he willing to part to get this piece? That's the difference. Whereas a Daytona, you go online now, you could probably find 1,000 in the country. You know, there's a lot of people out there who would be willing to accept your price.
So why is it so hard to get a Rolex from an authorized dealer? Because that's something lots of people didn't understand when we made a short about it. And it's like you can't just walk into the Rolex store and say, I want this watch. You have to go on a waiting list. And even if there is a waiting list.
It's very bizarre. And I think Rolex used lockdown and COVID as a perfect timing to change. Because beforehand, you could almost walk into like Lakeside or Westfields, show some interest in a watch. And they would say, look, leave your name and number. We could probably get you one maybe a year, maybe longer. Now they're walking in, they're half laughing at you. You got to buy an item of jewelry. You got to buy something else.
You have to kind of sell yourself to them, like
Yeah,
you're worthy of buying a watch from Rolex.
And I feel sorry for the people who actually do generally want these watches and not selling them. But this is where the next part comes in. So during COVID and lockdown, people obviously knew watches flying up in price. Every single watch that hit the shelves was selling. Didn't matter what it was going for over list price. So they end up getting flippers, like people in between the dealers who was selling a watch for a profit, £1,000, maybe £500. And then because they was buying 3 or 4 rubbish pieces, they was getting the good pieces. So for them, it was a no-brainer. But then, like, if we was to walk into a Rolex store today, I'd probably get salt thrown in my face. They don't want to deal with me at all. But I want a personal collection, you know? So for someone like me now, because they know I buy and sell watches, I can't have a personal collection because they think I'm going to sell it. Which, okay, that's just the way life is, unfortunately.
Do you think that's going to do them long-term harm? I know Rolex look more, they don't look 5 years like a PLC does. They look sort of 50 years, 100 years onto their brand, how it's going to last the test of time. But do you think this short-term will affect them?
Short term, I've already noticed that the staff members have been told to be a lot more polite and a lot more like understanding as such. Because like you'd walk in there 2 years ago, a year ago, and they start laughing at you and like make you feel small. Like you'd walk in there and go, "Have you got any Steel Submariners or Daytonas?" And rather than explaining why the hype is so, I know it must be tiring explaining it day in day out. It really must be, because I would understand that. But it is your job at the end of the day. Just because you work in Rolex doesn't give you authority to be rude to somebody, you know? And I think no matter what, Rolex have got a brand that they're going to sell out everywhere. They always will do. So if they're not selling out in England, they'll sell out in the USA or vice versa.
Well, apparently they make 1 million pieces a year, don't they? Something like that. And that's it.
Yeah, so that's a lot of pieces in my opinion. You know, they obviously split them up into certain categories, but that means there's enough to go around for people. But then you've got collectors, individual collectors, who may have 5 pieces, may have 10 pieces, you know? So you can see where the allocations are going. The wealthier people are getting more slots because they're spending more money in store, which, okay, you know, if a wealthy person's walked into a Watch of Switzerland and they've spent over £200,000, why does he not deserve the stainless steel Daytona? Rather than a random guy walking in now and that's his first purchase. It's difficult. It's a difficult situation, but I can't see Rolex's sales going down anytime soon, but their attitude has certainly changed.
I'm pleased you say their attitude has changed, because I remember back in the day when I was like 8 or 9, I walked into a Rolex store and said, "Oh, can you fix my Casio watch?" And they were just laughing at me. It was just crazy.
See, and like for somebody who's got like their first watch, for example, encourage that, because look now, you've got the Rolex, you know?
Yeah.
So it just goes to show, you know, if somebody comes in and asks us to put a pin in a watch, we'll do it. It's not something we offer as a service, but if we can help you out, we'll help you out. We're humans at the end of the day, you know, and I think that's something they've realised it now. I know they have.
Do you think that was part of their strategy though, to kind of make you feel small so one day you can be worthy of getting their product?
Well, I guess, you know, that they're half tempting you like to think, oh, you can't afford this, watch, you can't get this, I'll show you. You know, it's a natural human thing to want to prove someone wrong. I think it's just natural, you know, but well, maybe you're looking into it a little bit, but yeah, that's
maybe they don't need that strategy now because they're doing so well.
I don't know if we'll try that strategy yet, but yeah.
Have you found your other Rolex that we wanted to?
The other Rolex?
Yeah, have you found it?
I have,
Can I have it?
You can,
under the table?
Yeah.
All right, hang on, we'll do this now. We got a fake Rolex and a real one. Could you explain to the audience how you would tell the difference? Obviously, you'll know the difference straight away.
From experience.
But what they should look at.
Yeah.
Right.
And it can't just be the guy who's selling it going, "You want to buy a watch?"
That as well, Mark.
I think you got that one from China, didn't you?
In
Hong Kong.
This is probably one of the better ones I've seen.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So from experience, I'm just looking at like the dial configuration, because the actual bezel itself on the older models, they do fade. They wasn't ceramic. So straight away, a watch collector or a dealer may look at that and think that's a good sign. But I'm looking at the actual case lugs here. They're just too thick.
It's about 20 years old, that one.
Yeah, so the actual screws on the side of the actual case itself, too small. The bracelet's too thick. You know, we used to have a saying, a biscuit. So when it's too thick, it's like a biscuit, like a cookie.
Yeah.
Something's wrong with that watch.
Right.
But there is a GMT called a Fat Lady. It's a thick watch.
Yeah.
Don't make the mistake of thinking that if it's thick, it's fake.
Yeah.
You know,
So it's just one of the signs to look for.
Yeah.
How about the weight? Is the weight different?
Well, in stainless steel, there's not a hell of a lot of difference. Like, you know, the older models will be tinier because they was hollow, the bracelets, you know. So this is not a good example to actually work on, I'll be honest. This is actually quite a good example.
Yeah.
This is, not bad at all. Obviously, I know the parts fell off the crown,
Yes,
but I mean,
yeah.
that can happen to a real one, you know.
Yeah.
It's not to say that can't happen. But the number one sign to tell if you're out there and you're going to buy a Rolex is open the case back.
Okay.
You can go on YouTube, you can see a lot of these movements online. If something doesn't look right, it's not real. Rolex will never finish a watch without making sure it's 100% fine. So if you open it up and there's a wrong color, there's a mainspring, it could be a part's been changed. That's why you need to let a professional do it. I'll be totally honest. If we ever have a second thought before we're purchasing a watch, we'll take it to a watchmaker, get a second opinion.
Yeah, because I mean, if you take that back off and it's obviously a waterproof watch or whatever, you are destroying that, or you could.
Yeah, so that's why I say you've got to make sure it goes back to a watchmaker.
Yeah.
If it's something you do at home, you can order the parts and do it at home. But if you don't do it and it's not water still tight, that's going to be an expensive repair.
How about the straps? What one is your favourite? So is it the Jubilee and the Oyster strap?
So the Jubilee bracelet, I'm much more fond of. I've actually got this watch in my personal collection.
Yeah.
You know, anybody at home who wants to get a sports watch, I would pick this over a Daytona any day of the week.
I would as well.
Great looking watch, and do you know what? That's going to look cool in 20 years if you've still got it.
Yeah, I personally like the strap, but then a lot of people were telling me to go with the Oyster strap.
I just think the Oyster strap is a modern strap, but I think it's quite unusual for a sportsman to be on a Jubilee band. And I think in time people will look back and go, what a cool watch, you know? I just don't know. There's something about it. It just works.
So when a Batman is on a Jubilee strap, is it a Batgirl?
That's what we call it in like trade language.
Yeah.
It's not the
It just
actual
sounds
name.
less cool, doesn't it?
A Batgirl, you don't call that a Pepsi girl.
No.
You know, a Pepsi girl sounds like a cowgirl, doesn't it? It doesn't really sound like... But for example, the new model, the Sprite that's come out on the black, it's a left-handed watch.
Yeah.
So we've had one of those and we all prefer it on the Jubilee band. But my head can't obtain when I'm looking at the watch because the date wheel's on the other side and the winder's on the other side.
It's around
of
the wrong
crown.
way, isn't it?
I want the watch, but my head's telling me you're never going to settle with that watch. It's just go for a Pepsi. This is like
I reckon
an
that's a
advert.
good one for Kai because he's left-handed.
Yeah.
Oh, if you're left-handed, it's a must.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say I would. That's a great watch. That's a great watch.
I mean, we spoke to someone recently about handbags and various things, and he said that the market for counterfeit has levels of how good they are, and there's actually worth in it. So is there worth in a counterfeit watch, or would you say counterfeits just steer clear? Or, as a lot of people do with watches, they'll buy a counterfeit of the one they have, so they'll wear that out and about rather than the real one. What are your thoughts?
Well, precisely what you just said. There's no wrong and right to it. For example, if you have a duplicate watch of your watch for safety reasons, go for it. I've got nothing against it whatsoever. Does it take away the good feeling of wearing an actual real watch? Yes. You know, I'd rather not wear a fake watch. I'd rather not wear a watch than wear a fake watch.
Yeah.
You know, growing up, if I really wanted something, I've been tempted, like when I was a kid, like 15, 16, if I couldn't afford like a 100k watch, I'd think, I'd buy one of them if I go Hong Kong or wherever. But I think working towards it and having the real piece means so much more to you than having a fake piece. But safety-wise, I'd say, do it. Why not? Because if somebody managed to get it off you and they got away with a fake, more fool them, you know? Absolutely. What an achievement.
Yeah, they're going to think, what an achievement. I've got this £100,000 watch off this guy driving a Bugatti. Woohoo. Yeah. Oh, dear.
Exactly. You know, all that for what? You know, not a lot. But the actual replicas, the fake watches, have got so much better. So, like, worryingly better. And that's why we have a step-by-step process. So we have to have 2 people minimum confirm a watch when they come in to buy it with us. So we take the case back off, make sure the serial number's correct. Even it comes down to the actual papers in the box to the watch. Are they correct, for example? A lot of the actual cards now, because when they used to be a paperwork document, it was a lot more harder to copy that. And I think that was quite a nice touch with Rolex. But where they're being mass produced 1 million pieces a year, They've just converted them to like a little Oyster card type debit card thing now, and they're just absolutely just printing them out, which I think takes it away from them as a brand, which I think they're having enough profit in the watch in the first place to be able to afford to give you a paper document. When you buy a Patek, you get a paper document, all hand signatured, like beautiful, heat stamped.
Yeah,
it's
very
unbelievable,
good,
and
yeah.
it's a nice touch. You actually want to get it out and look at it.
Yeah.
Whereas Rolex cards, I see them every single day, and they do absolutely nothing for me. It doesn't seem that special holding one.
So how much of the value of the watch is contained within the papers and the box it came in originally, percentage-wise?
Papers is a massive difference. Box is not so much, because a box you can usually buy another one online pretty easy nowadays.
How much would a Rolex box be?
Rolex box on average £150 to say a vintage piece £500 maybe. You know, it's not
Too
that
bad
crazy
compared to the value of the watch.
compared to the value of watch. Whereas, for example, it really differs on like a watch value. So Pepsi, for example, if you lose the card, that watch would decrease, I'd say, around £5,000
Oh dear.
Really?
instantly.
Yeah.
Even if, for example, if I sold you that watch and I know I sold it to you with papers and you come back and you lost it, I've then got convinced the new buyer who wants to buy that watch is, don't worry, the papers was lost in good faith. There's nothing wrong with this watch. They don't want to hear that, you know. So that's the difficult part of selling a watch without papers.
Because I know in my industry, I mean, we buy and sell Hornby trains and little Matchbox cars and various things like that, and the box itself can be up to 80% of the value of the item.
Is that box condition as well?
Box condition as well, yeah. Opposed to a fantastic box, with the model, it's certainly up to about 80%.
Wow. But don't get me wrong, there are certain pieces out there. For example, a Richard Mille box is around £2,000.
Oh dear.
And then there's a Patek Philippe box out there, a cork one, which you get for platinum edition. That's around £25,000.
What about watches that are high end but have sort of lost their value and gone through the floor? Is that common or?
On certain brands that are not worldwide popular, for sure, like, if you buy that brand at retail price, Frank Muller, for example, is a great example. You could go and buy one of them watches, which I think are great design, but you'll pay $25,000 for one, walk out, and it's not even worth £6,000. So, again, are you buying this watch because you want to keep it forevermore? Then do it. But do not buy that watch with the idea of selling it in a year or two, because it's an idiotic move, you're losing money.
I suppose it's nice, even if you were buying to keep it, it's nice to have the option to sell it later on if you want to liquidate that into cash.
For sure, or if you're thinking of the next generation, like if you've got a son or a daughter and you want to give that watch to them.
Or a dad.
Yeah, or exactly that, yeah, or a dad. It's true though, but it's like, I would advise, if you're going to buy a brand like that, buy it on the grey market and pay the price that's already lost the money. Because then it can't lose that much more.
Why do you call it the grey market as opposed to like the pre-loved market? Because I always think the grey market is a bit...
Seems a bit shady.
It does, doesn't it?
But there's a lot of shady tricks to it. There's not a lot of honest people in the grey market, I would say. It's a wide market. It's a worldwide market. But for example, since Brexit, we can no longer import and export watches to the UK. So the UK market is thriving. So that's why I think any stock that is available is getting eaten up so much more quickly than it used to be. Because if there's only 5 Pepsis in the UK for sale, they're going to take away like bull.
Yeah, I know I had to wait for it to come on your story. I missed the first one you put up and I was like, right, I'm going to get the next one.
Yeah, that happens a lot. We're not even playing games with people. If we upload something in the morning, on a red hot piece, is sold within 20-30 minutes. Somebody's willing to bank transfer us who shot with us before, or a new customer. And other people don't believe it. They think we're playing games, but that is our day-to-day activity. You've been in the office a few times. You've seen, often or not, there'll be other people there purchasing and selling watches at the same time.
I think that honesty policy is definitely the best way. It's how we do it in our business. We will tell them, we've got 2 of them left or 1 of them left. And I think people will eventually realise you're the real deal. And that's why you'll get those pre-sales because you're being honest with them.
Yeah.
And let's face it, you've been around since 1991 and that means a lot as well, I think.
Yeah, it's true. Like, we spoke about it off camera earlier. You said you was looking for a particular piece. I will not call you up unless I've got that piece coming in for sure. And I won't let myself down by thinking that might be coming in. Let me call you and quote you and get a deposit. I will not do that until that watch is in my possession. I've checked it out myself. I won't waste your time and I won't waste my time. But going back to what you just said as well, since 1991, we're here for another 10, 20 years, we hope. You know, that's our aim. You know, we're looking that far forward. And I think we may not be the cheapest. We may not pay the most. But you know full well that you can come back to us in a year or two or longer, and we're definitely going to be there. And I think a few people have realised the mistakes of going elsewhere to these new dealers that will come on the scene 2 years ago. They've paid £500 less, but now they need a receipt to prove where they bought the watch from or the watch has been lost. That company doesn't exist no more. We do. We've been around for a long, long time, you know, and we know what we're doing. We do.
There's quite a big watch YouTuber that's climbing the ranks at the moment called Nico. What do you think of him and his business, Pride and Pinion?
Yeah, so I've met Nico before at the London Watch Show. Cool guy. You know, he's very loud and outspoken. That's him. That's him though, you know, and I like it because he's himself.
We always think the crazy thing is he's the exact same age as Dad, but he looks so young.
Well,
That's not nice, is it?
No, I said it was good because he looked young, not because you look old.
All right, but I look more distinguised. That's what you're saying, aren't you?
You got the white hair, the wisdom.
We had a little chat after. We had a little chat after.
Yeah, I think you're grounded.
But no, listen, he's a cool guy and he's obviously done amazing on YouTube. You know, there's some things that I like, there's some things that I don't like, but you know, it's not my channel. You know, it's nothing to do with us. But he hates Hublot.
Yeah,
that's a known fact. You know, but Nico won't buy or sell a Hublot. I will. You know, so for people out there listening to this, you know, if there's a particular watch you want and we haven't got it in stock, ask us. Because if we can get it for you, we're willing to do the deal. Just because I don't like something personally won't stop me from doing business.
I'm surprised he hasn't been sued by them, the amount of stuff he says on YouTube.
It's true. I don't think they'll be getting no invites to any Hublot events.
No
sure.
Christmas cards for him.
No. Well, they might do. It might, I don't know. Maybe they'll try and convince him otherwise.
So why are they so hated in the watch community? Not so much like overall, but the people that love watches always speak poorly about them.
The reason being is mechanically they're not the best. They're churned out in a factory.
Right.
There's not much love put into a Hublot, so not much love comes out. So design wise, I would actually wear a Hublot. I think they're quite a cool watch, but then it's just the grief you get with like having one. People won't even want to rob it. They'll be like, keep it, go and get a better watch. You know, it's just, it's not the best watch to have at the moment, I would say.
What's the profitability on these watches? Is it high profit for yourselves?
No, so across the board, like I would say on the lower scale items is the more higher profit. You know, anything 5,000 and under, you may get up to 15, maybe in some cases 20%. Anything above that from 10,000 to say 30,000 is 5 to 8% on average. And then anything above that drops again to probably around 5%. So
from there, you've got to say, don't ask for a discount because you're working on a very slim margin in the first place.
Well, we're very clever at what we do. So we look online. I'll never buy a watch above market value because we need to sell it again. I need to give that new buyer a good deal. I need to be relatively cheap. So, for example, if you came in and you see them online at £20,000, well, I don't really want to buy that watch for £19,000. I want to buy that watch for £18,000 so I can offer it for 19.2, 19.3. You know, so I need to be cheaper than what they are online, and I need to be sending them for more. It's a difficult situation. We're more about turnover. I'd rather sell 20, 30 watches a week rather than sell one or two a week and earn £4,000 or £5,000 a watch, because I know that client will never come back to me when they know they've been overcharged a lot.
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
It must be hard buying when the watch market is on the way down as well, because if you buy a watch at a certain price, then that becomes the new price that it's selling at.
Yeah, it's true. It's like, for example, we have got some certain pieces I probably bought for an investment, and they've not quite worked out where I thought they was going to be. But I don't lose until I sell that watch.
No.
So I know I've overpaid. There's no doubt about it. But okay, I'm going to have to be patient. I'm going to have to wait for the market to pick back up, which I do believe it will. And if not, like I go back to what I said earlier, I buy these watches because I like them personally. If I lose on some of them, you know, it's no big deal. But if you're at home and you've bought an investment watch and you're looking at selling it when everything's gone down, like crypto, stocks and watches went down, you know, it's a bad time. You be a little bit more patient. In the last 3 or 4 weeks, we've noticed watches are on the up. If the increase of these prices gradually happened over a 5-year period, it'd have been a lot nicer and a lot more stable for everybody, I think. Because
it's almost like you had all those gains from the 5 years in the pandemic period, and now it's correcting.
It was crazy, you know, like it was difficult for us to keep up as well because your money meant less. So for example, buying 5 GMT Master back girls would have been £20,000 less a year before. That's another back girl and another watch. So it was affecting our stock level. We used to say we was the largest stockist in the UK, like 300 watches. Our watches have gone down to around 250. Thankfully, still the biggest, largest independent stockist in the UK, which I'm very proud about. But it's a lot hard to maintain that level of stock now because watches are just so expensive. So it doesn't benefit us, the watches being more expensive, I'll be honest, because we're fortunate enough to sit on enough stock so we ride the wave. If they go up, good. If they go down, okay, we have to take the responsibility.
Should we go on to our final questions?
I think we're about that point, aren't we?
I think I know the answer, but if you could be quite specific with the answer, that would be good. If you could only invest in one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be and why?
Myself personally would certainly be watches, but no offense to the viewers, I've got the knowledge. I feel I've got the knowledge. You know, I've done the research. I've done this for a long, long time, so I feel like I know what I'm doing. But on the other scale of that, it would be property, which I have done.
That's interesting.
You know, we've invested throughout Trotters in that a lot, and it only seems to go one way. You know, I know there's probably going to be a crash in my lifetime, but again, I know I'm here for it. You know, hopefully it doesn't, but most generations do go through it. But I just think it's such a solid investment, you know.
So do you do that in the same business? So are you buying like areas to keep your stock, or are you buying rental properties through Trotters?
Commercial properties. So nothing to do with Trotters, jewellers.
I love a bit of commercial property.
Yeah. Commercial property is completely separate.
Yeah.
It's Trotters Corporation, but it's completely separate. But it's a sideline that they both support each other, you know. And I think never put all your eggs in one basket. I don't advise anybody to do that with any investment.
Yeah, very good advice.
And I think it depends on how much you want to invest. If you only invest little, you're only going to get little back.
Yeah.
You know, that's a true statement that I got told once. And I think it depends. You got to know what you're invested in. Do research. Definitely do research before you dive in the big end. And when you're buying a property, you're tied to it for 25, 30 years as such. That's a big commitment. There's not much bigger you can tie yourself down to. So I don't know. Yeah,
you haven't got to watch what it's worth on a daily basis, though, have you?
Well, nobody can steal it.
Exactly.
You know, it's bricks.
Yeah.
Hopefully, if you've got building insurance, that will cover it.
Yeah.
You know, and you've got some good tenants.
It's good for cash flow. Yeah.
Great for cash flow, you know, and it's stability. You know, if you get, especially in commercial, a lot of your tenants will be there for long term rather than short term. And I think it's a lot less, there's no games. It's quite a steady, it's a very strong, steady flow. So that would definitely be my advice. Nothing to do with watch-related property.
Awesome.
Okay, that leads me on to my final question. When is enough?
Wow.
Enough.
I've never set myself like a figure or a target, but whilst I'm doing it, we must remain the best. I wasn't the best when I first started. We wasn't number one. I had no evidence of that, so I strived for it. We literally had a chat yesterday of our team about it, and there's a lot more competition than there ever was. So for me, it's not about making money as such. It is about making money. That's bullshit. It is about making money. But for me, it's more so the legacy of Trotters. If you go to most parts of the UK, you go to Scotland, you go down south, you mention Trotters, they know about us. That's because we work 7 days a week, 365, you know. We put that effort in that other people won't. When people want to have a weekend off, we don't. You know, there's a lot more hard work behind it. So I'd be a lot more prouder if the day I do decide to retire or quit, that we was the best up until that day.
Well, you keep treating customers the way you do, and I think you're going to remain at number one.
Thank you.
Go.
It's honestly, that's something we strive for, and I think as long as I'm here, I'm going to give my absolute all, more than 100%. So if there's any competition out there, you got me for a long time, toe to toe with anyone out there in the industry. It's
probably
true.
watching this, trying to dissect your strategy. And,
It's true.
He's not going to give up.
Competition's healthy. It is for sure.
Of course it is. Improves your game.
It certainly does, and it keeps you on your toes. And I think you need that, definitely. But I wouldn't want to be up against me.
Right. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to smash that thumbs up button for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe for new videos every Friday. So it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him. Laters.
See you later.